And it looks like we're live. What we need is some theme music so that everybody knows, like, hey, I hear it. It's starting.
Music. I like Gloria Estefan, "Get on Your Feet." You know, the one that
Get
Microsoft,
on your
when
feet. Yeah,
yeah, that one,
yeah,
where Steve Ballmer comes running out like a madman,
yes.
sweating,
Like
like, dripping.
my whole thing, just just that. Everybody, well, not everybody, but every time I do the slow clap start, in my head, I'm hearing developers, or yes, right?
This is,
Like,
like, one of the funniest scenes in tech.
but I love it. It
You just don't
is.
get that energy anymore, okay?
That's the energy I'm striving for.
If
That's
if the Twitter takeover went anything like this, I would have been like, "Yes,
yep.
it has happened."
So welcome. We have a few people joining us. Thank you for joining us. Today is another episode of Code. Hello. We appreciate you. Thank you for letting us know you're here. This
Yeah.
is great. Connor, welcome to the stream. It's wonderful. I'm super glad that I met you. Connor is one of those what I call a Spring developer advocate that doesn't report to Tasha. He's somebody that's out in the community doing cool things and doing the juice, bringing the juice. Join us in creating excitement. So Connor, thank you for joining.
Thanks, Connor.
Fabricio, thank you for joining. We're going to do the same thing. Code is a little bit different. It's just another Tanzu TV show, but what we're trying to do is we want to put ourselves in your seat. Right? We do stuff. We want to share how we think. We want to share what we're doing. We want you to ask questions. We have kind of a plan, but if that plan doesn't happen, that's absolutely okay. So thank you for joining. My good friend Mario. Mario, introduce yourself.
Hi, Mario Gray. How are you guys doing? I am a tech developer advocate with the Spring framework team from 2017, but I've been using Spring since 01, oh no, 03, 04, something like that. And I guess what I can say is I'm a developer since the, you know, Slackware 1.0. If you've ever used Slackware 1.0, that's kind of where I started developing software in a real sense. Um, and I've been here. I've been in multiple developer positions for decades, and now I'm here at VMware Tanzu, working with the fine people in front of you, like DaShaun and Dan and Joshua and
And Jakob and
Ricky,
Layla
everybody.
and Kote and
Yeah,
Lee and Tiffany and
yeah,
Tasha and
yeah,
Whitney.
Tasha.
Did we
Yeah,
miss anybody? I hope I didn't miss anybody.
the big guns. Yeah.
Yes. We have a great team. I'm DaShaun, Spring Developer Advocate. I'm here in large part because of Mario and Josh. And before I was on this team, I was also a Spring Developer Advocate. Just I enjoy it. Spring has done a lot of really good things for my career, and I'm happy. And I hope that I can pass some of those things on to you. So today, our plan is we're going to do some more Spring REST docs, but instead of using the REST template like we did last time, this time we're going to use web client. We're going to kind of bring it forward a little bit. It's
Wait,
still okay to use REST template.
what's that?
Yeah, great. I'll hand it off. You tell me.
I thought I was just gonna segue into like a question of, hey, what the heck are you talking about? I like REST template.
No,
REST
REST
template's
template's
my
awesome,
friend. How
right? It's been
dare
around
you?
for a long time. It's core. It's part of Spring Framework core.
Yeah.
But the recommendation is maybe let's start moving towards web client. Get more flexibility, right? We can do RESTful and reactive,
Oh,
right?
okay. Okay, I get it. Okay, so yeah, that's a good upgrade. I like that. That's a nice upgrade, going from REST template to web client. I guess you're gonna get a lot more mileage out of the web client stuff anyway. Since I love web client since it seems more functional and fluent than REST template. Um, I like to know how other people think about the reactive stack on Webflux. So basically anything Webflux is going to be fluent and functional in a way.
Yeah, so that's another difference, right? It's not just the client that we're changing. So last time we ran through this, we ran and we used Spring Web. So today we're going to use Spring Web Flux.
Yes.
Another
So
difference.
what we're going to do is bring in the whole. So the reactive stack is, well, first of all, what is reactive? Reactive programming is it's a big question. I have a friend that I know that explained this once, and I like to give these examples out as you're talking about the difference between imperative and reactive. And what you have in imperative is, one scheduler, one thing that executes your code, that is your main thread, everything blocks. So for example, if in imperative programming, which is what REST template is, you run a method saying, hey, get a URL, and your code sits there and waits on that thread for that get URL to come back and return an answer. Well, in the reactive world, rather than that one thread sitting there and waiting for it to come back, reactive promotes a scheduled event loop. So what ends up happening is, rather than waiting on the single thread and then continuing after it's done, it's asynchronous. So in other words, the reactive scheduler lifts that call and it subscribes to it on another thread. It creates another thread, it does all the work there, and then it comes back, right? And you have to be able to listen to these things. You have to be able to say, hey, I want to know when this is done. So you subscribe to it and you say, okay, well, I either want to block or I want to, subscribe later and do some deferred work. So basically when the answer comes back, you can then fluently and in a functional way provide more programmatic functionality. We'll show that later. We'll show what that looks like in practice, I guess.
Yeah.
Just because it sounds like there's a lot packed into those words. But essentially, you're talking about like scheduling your code, and reactive schedules your code in a way that it would be very hard for you to implement this on your own. You wouldn't.
I heard you say event loop.
Yeah, like the JavaScript event loop, or how that works with NIO and stuff. libuv, the event loop that it creates a bunch of lightweight threads and says, okay, well, it's a task scheduler, so it's going to be able to understand when IO is ready, or when a thread is ready, or a unit of work is ready, so that it can then send a notification to the thing listening to that event and proceed with its code, with its routine.
So I'm going to put the link. This is the repository we made last time we did it live. We're going to do something similar. So I just posted the link to what we worked on last time. Mario, why don't you share your screen and I will step aside and we'll get your stuff up and let's just get started. Let's build some stuff.
Yeah, let me figure out which screen I want to share here. I'm going to go ahead and we could start.spring.io, I guess.
That's a great place to start.
Yeah.
That's a great place to start.
Only place to start. Okay, so present a screen. Yes, I have two monitors.
And again, it's interactive. If you've got questions, feel free to throw those in while Mario is driving. I will be addressing questions if I can. There are other members of the Spring team may or may not show up. So get your questions asked, whether it relates to what we're doing or not. We're here. We're developer advocates. We are here for you. If we don't know the answer, Mario's got way more answers than I do. If we don't know the answer together, we've got Slack and we can reach out to the Spring team. But this is just an opportunity for us to connect, open up a channel. Let's learn some Spring. Let's get some reps in.
Let's do just, okay, so what we'll do is, can you see my screen? Is my screen like
now I've added your screen.
Okay.
And I'm going to slide off and I'm going to let you drive.
Okay, great. So if my screen's at the right resolution, then everybody can see it, and that's good. So I want you to be able to go, okay, well, I want to start a program, and I want it to be Spring application, and I want to use WebFlux. So I want to be able to do this and also document HTTP calls. I want to be able to say, hey, I have an endpoint, and I want people to know how to use that endpoint. And if I want people to know how to use that endpoint, hey, I might also want people to be able to read it and then print it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to implement something called, we're going to implement a couple of REST endpoints, just like we did before, only this is going to be a reactive version. not much has changed except for the testing API, and you will probably I would hope that you like the web test client, the web client version of this, because I think it provides a little bit more readable API in terms of fluidity
M.
than the
Zarabi
Fluent
has a
API.
question. What's
Mhm.
your suggestion for Webflux? Is it Netty or Tomcat? Tomcat, we can't do Webflux with Tomcat, right? Is it Netty or some other
Yeah,
alternative? We have Underflow, right? Or
yeah. So you can use
Undertow, not Underflow.
right. So by default, it's Netty. By default, like Netty is the spec for reactive, and you get a Netty HTTP server that comes with it. You can use Undertow if you want. You just have to, okay, well, you just have to bring in the Undertow server, and then you can simply, when you start up the application, you can tell it how to start with Undertow. So it's not a very it's not very difficult. I have an example on my GitHub to do it. But you can bring in one of those two. You could probably bring in another, reactive HTTP stack if you want as well. I haven't seen anything used more than Netty and Undertow. Undertow seems to be a popular one, for instance. But Tomcat itself is really a servlet spec, so it's imperative. It doesn't react to. It's not reactive, so there's no way of getting those things onto a reactive stream without a lot of work. And that work still means that if you were to bridge, say for instance, a non-reactive app with a reactive app, that non-reactive app will be your the losing end. It will be the part of the application that eventually stalls the rest of the application because it's still operating under one thread. It's still sitting there blocking. So what we do have is a purely reactive HTTP server like Netty or Undertow. And that gives us the full reactive stack, and it gives us all of the benefits of being reactive.
Mario, you do a great job of explaining things, and I'm going to just kind of share my expectation, my vision for everybody that's watching. I've always enjoyed watching this show. I've always enjoyed kind of like having it passively on another screen where I'm kind of listening. I feel like I'm working next to somebody, but I also like following along. So what I'm going to be doing, and if you have the opportunity in the audience, I'm going to be following along, and I want to, click by click, follow along as much as possible. Last time we did the pair with me or the code with me. Do you think we should do that today?
Yeah, we can do that as well. Yeah, I'll set that up, and yeah, then you can just hop
Yeah,
on and make changes and whatever.
perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that sounds
All right,
cool.
awesome.
Um,
So play along if you can.
okay, so how about this, DaShaun? Not only is there REST docs, because we love REST docs, REST docs does something else that's really cool. And I've been kind of like living in the world of TDD for a while. I like to write tests, write as much test as possible. I know some people think that tests are like, it's an afterthought. Like I don't need to write tests, but I find that if I write tests first and then I write production code, I just feel a whole lot better than not writing tests or even writing tests after my production code, because I'm not sure if the production code even matches the test sometimes. So in this way, I can ensure that everything that I write has been tested. So what I'll do is I'll write a little bit of a test, and I'll just go to production when I need to.
There you go.
PDD method. So
Johnny asked a question. Why would one choose REST template instead of WebFlux? It looks to me like WebFlux can cover the blocking case as well. The answer is yes, it can.
yeah,
You might choose REST template for habit. That muscle memory. That's the only reason I lean there. But I'm trying to learn too. I just don't have as many reps with WebFlux, and I'm trying to get them. So
yeah,
yeah, that's it. WebFlux does cover all of the blocking use cases as well.
yep, yeah. So okay, so the story goes, yeah, we have an application we want to make. REST docs drive some things. One of the things that I wanted to drive with REST docs, if you don't mind, DaShaun, is Spring Cloud Contract.
That sounds awesome.
Okay, so what we want to do is we want to also create contract. I used to do this. This is like some of my earlier demonstrations is using Spring Cloud Contract to generate stubs, things that you can actually test against from downstream consumers, like a client, for instance. So what we're going to do is we're going to add CDC, that is consumer-driven contracts. We're going to be the producer,
The
and
other
we're going to
CDC.
produce a contract. And what we'll do is we'll say, okay, so we have reactive web, REST docs, verifier. Do we need Lombok? I like Lombok.
We probably don't need Lombok because we're going to use
Probably
Java
don't.
17.
Yeah, okay, let's not then. Okay, let's call this artifact producer actually.
One of the things that I'll throw out there is when I'm building anything, I always throw in the actuator.
Oh, actuator.
I
Yeah,
always throw
that's
in the actuator, and because it's Spring Boot 3, who knows if we'll get there today, but I also like to throw in that Graal VM native support.
oh, good one.
I mean,
Native.
we'll see.
So then we can just
We'll see if we get there.
push out a native build. We can just make this thing start in 0.01 seconds.
Anbu
And
asks
run
the
it.
question, how is RESTdocs different from Swagger or OpenAPI? That is a great question, Anbu, and it's one that we've talked about. I think you were actually on the Spring Office Hours when we talked about it. Anbu is a regular over there, and there's some differences. So RESTdocs is building the documentation from tests. So typically with Swagger or OpenAPI, and there's probably a framework that'll allow you to do the exact same thing. But RESTdocs, the main thing is that it's driven and it's creating its spec from the tests, from the test output. So that's one of the big differences, and that's why I still lean into RESTdocs. Today, you're going to see some of how we integrate it with our Spring Cloud contract and reactive. One of the things that the Swagger Open API is not really great at handling is things like Helios, or however you want to say that, and reactive specs. So those are a couple of differences that we're going to be able to kind of highlight even in today's show.
Yeah,
But good question.
Hibernate is something I don't think Swagger. I'm not sure if Swagger supports Helios. So.
Yeah, it didn't the last time I checked. I'm sure everything's moving fast. But yeah, it's something that we can circle up on. But yeah, historically, it wasn't really great at handling that.
Thanks.
Good
Do we have
question.
all the
Thanks, Anbu.
dependencies? Did I miss something?
I think
here?
that's good. I think that's
That's
good.
good?
Actually, a question.
Oh,
The contract verifier versus the contract stub runner.
uh-huh. Oh, we're gonna do both. Don't worry. So
Okay.
verifiers for the producer.
Okay.
We're gonna produce a contract here, and then Stubrunner. Well, Stubrunner is the thing that consumes it. So it's like my client that's going to,
Got it.
if I'm on two teams and I have the back end team and I have the front end team, the front end team is going to want to run the stubs in order to verify that. And I know I used the word verify in a different context here, but they want to use the stubs to verify that their client works against the server, the producer. So it's producer consumer semantic here.
Got it.
I
Thanks.
shouldn't use verify so many times. I should just use it in the
It
producer
works. It works.
context. Okay, so let's generate that. This is called the producer.zip. And then if I have a shell terminal, I might have a terminal around here somewhere. Yes, I do. So let's go ahead and push that guy here. Let's go into workspace, demos, and make sure I don't have a producer already. Don't. Producer zip and idea. Oh, okay. And it starts in another window or screen. That's perfectly fine.
Your font looks really good. It's a nice, very readable.
I changed it to Hack, so now I'm using the font called Hack.
Interesting.
Hack? I guess who makes Hack? Is it GitHub? I think GitHub or somebody.
I'm not sure. It looks good. That's all I can say.
It's a fun font. Fonts are fun. Okay, so what's the first thing we want to do? We want to write a test. So in TDD, tests come first. Write just a little bit of test and then go. So what we're going to do is, this is a Spring Boot test. This is our context load test. We can leave it there because it's eventually going to have to run. We just want to know if the context loads here. So I can leave that test alone. It doesn't need to go anywhere. I'm going to create a new test. And that test is going to be called, I guess, REST controller test or REST tests. How about that? That's good enough. Okay. And this is going to be a WebFlex test. So what is WebFlex test? It's the stereotype for saying, hey, this test not only brings in the application, but it brings in a web context, a web application context, so that it knows how to essentially enumerate your controllers. It'll enumerate controllers so that you can then talk to them using WebTest Client. WebTest Client is a way of talking to your controllers without talking to a TCP/IP. Okay, so normally you have to stand up a server, and that server has to listen to a port, and that port, of course, takes up resources, and it has to sit there and transform TCP/IP into a REST or a HTTP request, right? With Web Test Client, you don't have that. It talks directly to the API, so it makes no transport bound requests. So it's a very fast way of producing these type of unit tests. So we'll just auto wire that. So I'm using auto wired, but here's a Web Test Client. We'll just call it. How about we just call it client? I don't like having that whole entire word in there. And then we'll test an endpoint. So DaShaun, can you give me like an endpoint that I might want to like code? You know, what should our first endpoint do?
Add planet.
Okay. What should it be? Should it be a post, or should it be a get, or
a post?
Okay. Let's see. So /planets.
How about /API/planets?
Oh, okay. API/planets. Okay. Okay. And then what do we want to do for the body?
I want to pass in some, JSON, but just a planet name.
Okay. Oh, planet name, like Jupiter. Just
Yeah.
add a name. Okay. So should it be a string, I guess?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll do.
Okay. What planet do you like?
Yeah, Jupiter sounds great.
Okay. Alrighty. So what we're doing here is we're telling the application, we're telling the test to post a URI with the body of Jupiter to an endpoint. We're going to say that this is encoded in an application JSON. It should be fine, even if it was context text plain. We can send a more thicker object later. In this case, the exchange method here says that at this point we will be talking to the response side. So above the exchange, we were talking to the request side, and below the exchange, now we're going to talk to the response side. So in this case, I'm going to say expect, I guess, created. Do we want to say created or just 200?
Yeah, 200 for now. Can you close your sync tab so I can see more of the class?
Yep.
Yeah. And what kind of test do we have here?
Right. So what we want is that this is going to return to anything. It may be not returning anything. It's just a post, and it's like, okay, it's done. And so that should be fine. In this case, we can say expect header, content type compatible with, I guess, media type, application JSON. And I suppose that's it. Do you want to like return anything, or do you want to leave
it? Maybe return an ID.
Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah. So then we can move on to expect body. And is the ID just a number, or will it return like a JSON entity? That's the ID. How about we return the entire planet object back?
Okay.
Like, the name and its ID.
That sounds good.
That might be cool. Okay. Okay. So then we can say JSON path, and in the JSON path we'll just say dot ID. I believe that's the correct JSON path. I might be wrong about that, but
we'll find out.
JSON path exists. Let's see that JSON. That's JSON path. We'll just say, okay, so let's see. I believe it's open close brackets, or it's not open close brackets. JSON path can be one of those things where it's like you're looking for an expression, and it's like, which expression is it? In this case, I don't remember this.
How about let's just put a comment there. What are we expecting?
Yeah.
Right, what do we think that's doing?
Yeah, what should this do? So, okay, so what should this return? This is either going to. I'm not sure if that JSON path is going to be an argument. Is this an argument or is that an actual expression for the thing that we want to expect? Yeah, I believe we need something like is equal to. So we don't need the arguments here. In this case, I'm going to leave that and give us a whirl. I'm going to break this test. This test is already broken because there is no endpoint. So if that's not obvious, then I'm not sure what is. But yeah, it's obvious that this is broken. It's not going to work anyway. What we want to do is we want to go ahead and fix the tests, and then we want those tests to pass. So given this, I'm going to send the word Jupiter, and it will return an object with its ID and name.
So what we did here,
yeah,
we said, hey, here's what we think we're going to be building. So we made a test, and this is our expectation for what we're going to build, right? We did a web flux test, and we kind of thought through what we think we're going to build. That's it. There's nothing magic here, right?
No.
Okay.
Not completely magic, not yet. The magic happens a little later.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So I think I did do that wrong. So I'm looking at my JSON path expressions. Yes. Okay. ID 1. Okay. So we wanted to have an ID of 1, or maybe it doesn't need to be 1. Maybe we'll just say planet name. How about that? The ID can be anything. Testing for the ID is like the wrong idea, right?
Got it.
Okay. So it is equal to Jupiter. Okay, so we want the name to be equal to Jupiter. Okay, so should have planet fails on purpose. There's nothing there yet. Now the next thing we want to do is say, oh, well, we don't have a planet yet. Let's add a controller. So let's go into production, and in production we can then say, here, go ahead and call this my planet controller. Planet controller or planet?
Yeah,
controller?
planet controller.
Okay. All right, so let's say rest controller. That's our stereotype for saying, hey, this thing is going to contain a bunch of mappings. And we want a post mapping. And we want the post mapping to have name value is actually, what was the URI for it?
/API/planets.
Okay. So I believe we map it to API, but now we map it to, so we're going to have /API/planets, and then we'll say out uses.
Can I ask a question? If on the top of my REST controller, if I just said, hey, /API/planets up there,
then you would have to, it will be slash, right?
Yep, and then it'll be slash.
I imagine it'll be slash.
That's what I'm going to do. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this is going to return a string or a planet. Let's return a planet. We don't have a planet yet. Oh no, we need a planet.
All right, what does that look like?
What was it? Body? Request body, my bad. Request body, string is name. Okay, so we need to create, usually we'll do this in tests. In fact, the REST test doesn't cover the actual creation of the planet, but in production, I can't go any further. None of this will work. I'm going to consider this a failed test, and then I will create a class called planet. Should this be a record? Is this recordable?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. What is the name? What is the long ID string name, right? Okay. No, I like how a data class in Kotlin works. Pretty much like record. It's the same thing, essentially. One of the biggest uses in Kotlin was like the data class, not having to worry about using Lombok even, and creating a bunch of getters and setters and constructors and binding all that stuff. In this case, it's so great. I can just go ahead and have a thing. I can just have a single class that needs nothing else but.
Go back to your record. Show us your record.
Show us the record.
Yeah.
What is the record?
It was really fast, right? It was super quick. Like, hey, here it is.
Yep. For the record, this is a planet. So that's just a long ID and a string for a name. Looks good. Yes? No?
Yes.
Did we
Yes, it
miss
does.
JSON? Are we looking for JSON serialized?
No, we'll get that out of the box. We'll get default message converters.
Cool. Cool. Default message converters for records, guys. Okay. So we don't have a server, right? We don't have like a RESTful, I mean, we don't have a server. We don't have a service, a Planet service yet. So what we'll do is we'll just say here, 1L, and then whatever the name is. It'll only return a new planet. It won't actually push it anywhere. If you want to do that, we can create, we would need to bring in a persistence layer. We currently don't have persistence. So what we're going to do here is just return maybe even a random number for the ID and then
Sure.
the name.
Yeah.
You know? That's probably there's probably a better way of saying, hey, give me.
No, that's great. That's perfect.
But that'll work for now. So let's see what we did here. We created a post mapping. We said, hey, I have API planets, and I'm going to take in a name, and I'm going to return. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and return a planet with that name in it. It's going to have a random number as along. That's its ID. And this thing should do the same thing. It should just say, hey, I'm going to go to API Planet, post the body, that's just the word Jupiter, and expect everything to be fine. Expect the name to be Jupiter. Oh, the next thing is, DaShaun, I need to add you to my code.
Awesome.
404 not found /API /planets. Hi. Probably because, is it the encoding? No, it's not the encoding. Nope. Range for.
Oh, I know why.
Whoa.
I know why.
Yeah.
Because on line 20, we didn't have a slash. We put the slash in our post mapping, and we didn't add the slash on our test.
Oh.
There you go.
Well, that's cool.
Right?
I haven't tried that one out before. I like that variation. Okay, that's a little bit better. So now it's telling me that it won't find it. It says, hey, I don't see your, I have a 404. It's saying that content, not even a content type is fine. Okay. I've been bitten by the not found bug before where I had the invalid content type, but that was something else. In this case, I have mismapped. So if I wanted to map a controller to the root of the, if I wanted to map a endpoint to the root of the controller mapping, would I need the slash up front or would I need the slash down here? That's the question. I usually don't map to what do you call them?
Either way. Those will both work.
Those will both work. Oh, yeah. Cool. Okay, well, I know that works. In this case, then I shall attempt to fix this and go ahead and run that again. 404 not found. Interesting.
So
what should we do here?
Let's take a look at that error. Make it bigger. I can't see.
Oh, here you go.
All right. It says, hey, the range for response status 404 not found. Expected successful client error. The assertion failed. Yeah, but what? Oh, wait. API planets. The path API planets is not.
Oh, there we go. It's because I'm sending in a content type of. I'm supposed to produce and consume. Let me see. Let me change that. I'm going to save at the content type because my web test client is saying I'm expecting a application JSON. Accept JSON.
Yeah.
Here, produce JSON, and also consumes.
Is it? Okay.
Okay.
But nope.
That wasn't it then.
It's not application JSON value. It's consuming text.
It is.
Text plain.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. So produces accept headers. Let's see.
So, right, consumes equals media type dot.
Well, that's not it. I can't, because I've done this a bunch of times. Let me try something. Let me debug real quickly and attempt to salvage the last bit of that right there.
So while you do that, I'm going to answer a few questions. So Connor says, is it public by default then or protected? Oh, I think he's referring to right there, line 13 that we're looking at. And he's saying, hey, is that public? No, it will not be public by default. It will be protected. Is protected the right word? It's going to be just
package protected, right?
Package protected, yeah. Then Spring 3 treats quote and slash different. Yes, it does. Isn't better that create return type change to mono? Should we change the return type to mono? We don't necessarily have to. It depends on how we're going to access it. And what we're trying to do today is we're going to show how we can do this as a reactive client and how the reactive client can also handle the blocking client use cases. So yeah, we'll probably get to that in a little bit. Connor says, I like having that as an agreement among the team though. Yeah, how are we going to expose these endpoints? And it also makes a difference in how we're going to test those endpoints. Love asks, why Spring Boot 3 not support Swagger configuration? I'm gonna need a little bit more.
Probably, I mean, it probably does. I don't see why it won't.
Yeah.
You probably won't find it in the initializer, but you can include it separately.
Yeah, there are a couple of packages in the ecosystem that will create the Swagger endpoints from what it finds. I'm assuming it's going to go in and look for your REST controllers and identify all the post mappings, get mappings, endpoints, and it'll expose that as a API spec. There are a few that do something similar to that, but yeah, so that in that sense, it is supported, but it's not something that we're getting out of the box, right? We're giving you a bunch of different ways to configure things, but that's something we don't lean into right away out of the box. But yeah, there are tons of options for delivering and consuming Swagger APIs. Programmers Algeria says, try to remove the value equals question mark. I'm sorry, I hope you couldn't hear that.
Which one?
That was really loud in my ears. I had a phone ring. I
thought
I was on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah. So what I did before was what I'm doing now is I'm not even asserting the body. I'm just saying here, don't even worry about accept, because I really don't care about the accept. You can do that up front, but that will limit your like your clients, because if you're receiving a JSON body, you're always going to expect a JSON body. If I'm producing a JSON body, then at least this is going to ensure that I always accept produced a application JSON. And I have a expectation that the result is going to be compatible with the application JSON, and I'm producing application JSON here. So what I expect at this point is for one thing to happen, and that is there is a slight incompatibility that I introduced with the media encoding, and my media encoding still says, hey, I'm going to accept application JSON, of course. I didn't set the content type, and of course, that's why here I'm supported media type. This is text plain, and that is wanting what, application JSON or range to respond to.
We're passing in text plain. We didn't convert our our input. We passed in
that's
plain.
what that is. So what we didn't do was we didn't give it a planet, we gave it a string.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And because we gave it a string, it's like, hey, this is text. I'm not seeing JSON here. I'm going to just go ahead and say, hey, this is text plain. Where is the body? So what you're saying is, what if I gave it a planet and then just
let the message converter handle it?
Give it a planet without an ID or with a null ID or something like that. And then it returned one with the ID itself. Although I'm sure that things like this typically happen when I want to do something that I probably shouldn't do, which is give you a string and return a JSON object. Because I can get into that cycle of, well, what dev said, this is a REST call if you're just going to send a string to a post, and then you're not going to say created, or you're not going to say successful or something like that. In this case, it's 200, it's 404. It's, hey, we have the right request, but we don't have the right encoding. I want the right encoding. So in order to do that, I'm going to suss out one or two things. I'm going to create a get mapping here, and I'm going to say, what planets do I have? And I'll say, let's get rid of, let's push this to /API. But then let's put this to /planets. And actually, I like the idea that you had /planets in there. For some reason, though, that wasn't even agreeing with me. Planets.
There you go.
So what we'll do is we'll say get mapping. I guess you can say value equals, this is probably a good one too, actually. Produces equals media type dot application JSON value. And so what we'll do is we'll return, do we want to return the list, or do we want to return the just one, whatever there's there? So for now, let's just say it's going to return a planet. I would say return a list. How about we just return a list? Because we might have more than one planet.
To get, yeah, normally if I'm calling the root, just like where I posted in my head, my typical default is if I call a get on the root of that API for something like this, a CRUD type API, I want the entire list. Later I'll figure out how to pass in like paging and sorting, etc. But yeah, I think I want them all.
Yeah, this is just a demo. It's not, it doesn't have to actually mean semantically what it's doing. Normally we'll just create like we'll have persistence in here. I like persistence, but I'm not going to do persistence right now. So this test will fail for now because what I did was I don't want to get too lost in debugging that one error. Should get planets. So what do we want here? We're just going to do a simple get that URI /API/planets. Cool. And then accept type application JSON exchange. Let's write this one more. Let's write one more test, of course. That's going to just make sure that we have one or two JSON entities. So we can say expect status, expect header, or expect body.
Don't forget your trailing slash on line 21.
Oh, there we go. Yes. What was that? Where did the double brackets go? Dot. Yes. Has JSON path. Hi.
Yeah, things are loud over here.
Okay. So we have get planets, and that's all it does. This is an even more compact test because I'm just doing a get request against this controller. And if you notice what I did earlier, well, I said, hey, I don't want to like write production code first. I wanted to write test code first. But what I did here is, as a way to kind of debug what my thought process is to write a smaller controller and then go from there. So I've written this a million times. I don't see why this wouldn't work unless it's just the, the ghost of tests past. Clearly, I pissed off a test at some point in life. No content. You got no content. Return arrays as list. Okay, yeah, there is an arrays list. Not found. Oh, really? Really? Let's do this.
Wait, what?
You're trying my patient's computer. I'm going to run, and I'm going to say http://8080/API/planets. Huh.
Oh, I can't see what it says because our little faces are covering it up.
Oh, no. Oh, sorry.
So it says not found.
Yeah,
why does it say not found?
I don't understand why I'm getting not found. Okay. All right. There's a rookie mistake I'm making here. There's a wiki. Let's see. let's just call this endpoint / all. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If you can agree with me, / all is good.
Yep, I
We
agree.
would like just the API to respond under planets. That sounds good, but / all. Really? Oh, did I do something wrong? Oh no. Oh no, I didn't do the REST controller correctly? What
No,
did
you did.
I did, yeah, that's the logical component. Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yes. Request mapping, my friend, is what I need. Let this be a lesson in
See, yeah. Unbelievable. See, I was following blindly. We know.
happens. It's always you're coding and you're going, oh crap, I missed that one
Like
thing.
what did I do?
Right. So okay. All right.
It was right in front of us.
Yeah, it was right in front of us. Request mapping. I sometimes think that doing REST controller itself should take in the root of the
I'm sure that there was a good reason for that.
I would like it to take in the root.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so now let's run that again.
Now we're cooking with gas.
Now we have Saturn and Jupiter.
Look at this.
Good. Okay. One more time. Should get planets. Yeah, I was getting a little testy there too. I was thinking,
there's no pressure here.
What did I do differently? There's a variation. Yeah. You always got to ask yourself. When you're a developer, you're going to create, a little bit of you're going to create like variances, right? And you're going to ask yourself, what did I do differently this time? And it's such a small change usually that it changes the outcome of whatever you're trying to implement. And in this case, it was just I barely ever used that request mapping. I haven't used it in days. God, why would I need to use it today? That type of thing.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if this does the same thing, or it might still error out for a different reason. I might have a let's see. Oh yeah, / my bad. So we got to do post to API / planet /.
There you go.
Okay. I told you we could write a REST endpoint somewhere. Unsupported media type this time. This time, let's see what we
application
got.
JSON instead of we have JSON versus JSON value. I think we just want to remove that underscore value.
Okay, so the way that works is that these are the same strings.
Same.
This is just the media type that you would include, but the JSON, the value just says like instead of the media type pointer, we're going to just return the string itself, and that's what value is.
Okay, and then so what is the difference here? Why is it saying? What are we returning?
But that's okay.
Oh, I know.
Oh, what?
Right, where we did content type compatible with.
Yeah.
That's what we ran into last time.
Yeah, I'm going to remove the variances, just because I'm not usually writing tests that specify that. But if it's still name path, okay, so there's nothing there yet, and that's why. So we just wanted to say $.name.
All right.
$sign's the object, I guess, and then 0 would be like the arity of the array, and then the name would be the thing. Okay. All right. So, all right, we can debug this. We can continue to fix.
We want tests. That's the whole point. We want tests.
Because I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to say, hey, I'm going to produce. I don't want to produce a JSON. I want to consume a JSON. In this case. So I want a JSON to come back, right? But I don't want a JSON to go in because I'm going to have text.
Nope, your post mapping produces JSON, right?
Oh, my bad. There you go.
Consumes text.
Go. Yes. Here you go. Yeah. Thank you. I don't think I heard that right the first time. Okay, so that fixed it. I accept it. I didn't expect it, and that's fine. I'm accepting the return value, and I want that to be compatible with JSON. And I suppose that text plain is the same thing. So what does this mean? What did we get wrong, and how can we change this? Well, my endpoint was consuming a text plain value, correct? But my test was actually, at first it was consuming a JSON, but my test was only producing text.
Yep.
And because I didn't specify, hey, this is actually JSON, it was going, hey, that's just a string. I'm going to make that a text. Now the question is to myself, what do I do in order to change that? So let's see. Content type, right? How do you set?
You're wanting to pass in JSON?
Actually, I'm wanting to, I'm not passing in JSON, I'm passing in text. The REST template, I can do that. I can say I'm passing in JSON, even though it's not JSON. I can still say, hey, I'm passing in JSON. And then JSON will be the matched header, even it's not correct, right? Because it's not correct for me to pass in a string when I'm only passing in. It's not correct for me to say I'm passing in JSON when I'm passing in a string.
Right.
And it's doing the right thing. It's saying, hey, I'm going to convert this into a string. This is context. This is the context is this is just a string value. It's plain text. So I did the wrong thing in saying that it's going to be JSON. Did that make any sense?
It did. So let me just look at our test again. So we're doing a post to API planets. We're passing in a body, a mono with just Jupiter as a string. We expect, or we are accepting application JSON on the return. And when we do the exchange, when we do that post, we expect a status of 200 successful. We expect a header that is compatible with application JSON. We expect a body, and in that body, we expect the JSON path of $.name to equal Jupiter. That makes sense. So let's go back to our planet controller.
Okay.
And let's double check that. Like, hey, does that all make sense of what we just said? We're at API endpoints. We did the get. Let's look at the post. We post to slash. It produces application JSON value. It consumes media type text plain value. We're doing a create planet, and the request body, it's taking in a name, and we're returning a new planet. That makes sense to me.
Okay. So, right.
So test pass.
Okay. Yes.
Boom.
All right. Well, that's the way it's supposed to work. Okay. Yes. All right. So what's next? What do we need to do here?
Snable, welcome to the show.
I think what we want to do is we want to generate REST docs. No? Yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
We have two controller endpoints. We're getting planets. We're setting one. We're getting the other. These are mock endpoints, by the way. These aren't mock endpoints. I'm sorry. Don't let me say that word with abandon. If I say mock with abandon, people might think that this is actually being mocked. These are real production endpoints that will respond. These tests are using the mock web client, so it will, like I said before, it won't use a transport. It will talk to the API directly. Is that right? Talks to the API directly, doesn't need to talk to a TCP port. But the abstractions are all what I would call the same. The abstractions are, still an HTTP request, an exchange, and a response, right? The exchange contains both the request and the response. So all we need to know is that the code, the main path, the thing that we want to test against, this guy here, the return statement basically, works. And that's all. Everything else really, well, okay, not the main path. The main path is the setup. So, from your mapping to your headers to the actual code that returns your value. But that's all being tested. Whether it's going through TCP or UDP or whatever other protocol, or it doesn't matter. So these tests are super duper fast. The next thing we want to do is, I guess we can say consume with. So in order for ASCII Doctor to work, DaShaun, what is the first thing we need to do?
Well, for ASCII Doctor, one of the things that we did last time, we had to tell ASCII Doctor, hey, here's where I want to generate a snippet. Right. We're giving it that command that says, hey, I want to generate a snippet from what I'm doing right here.
Okay. So in this case, what I believe we can do is we can say a couple of things here. We have a plugin, and that plugin, where is that plugin? Oh, here it
Right
is,
there.
the ASCII Doctor plugin. Okay, so the ASCII Doctor plugin allows us to say, hey, it's ASCII Doctor, and ASCII Doctor has attributes, and those attributes are basically, variables. So what we want to do is create an attribute called snippets, and we want to point that somewhere, right?
Did we need to do that? I don't know if we need to do that. I think we get a
You don't
default
need to do this
value
by
out of the
default.
box because we updated the ASCII Doctor Maven plugin. So after our last show, we realized like, hey, we're not getting the right versions of everything.
Yeah.
We opened up a ticket. The team was quick to respond, and they gave us a new, more modern version of the plugin that was not current. And I think that the new version gives us this, but we can go this
Yes.
route anyways.
So what I typically do is make it
Make it
known where the
explicit.
snippet.
Yeah, make it
Yeah,
explicit.
I just want to be explicit, like just make it known, like if you're going to use a build tool at some point to extract snippets, you're don't worry about that. You're going to want to know, well, where are the snippets? And so this is like basically setting it up so that any variable is already exposed, right? It's explicit. Good. The next thing is the following. So I'm going to do that. I basically set up ASCII Doctor at this point in the build tool. The next thing I want to do is I want to interact with ASCII Doctor, no? Or do I want to create ASCII Doctor? How about I create some ASCII Doctor? How about I create
like our little base?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to create a directory under source or under main and call it ASCII doc. And then what we need to do is create a file that explains, for instance, is it one endpoint or is it all the endpoints? In this case, we can say planets.adoc. And so what do you want to do? Do you want to drive from here? Do you want to like create some documentation and
just fill it in. So ASCII Doctor, much like markup, yeah, let's give it a title, Planets API. And then the next step, we want to say like, hey, we have a snippet. The first one we're going to show is our /API/planets. We have one for post and one for get. So those are the two that we've identified so far. So we should be able to fill in just we'll have a,
Is it operator?
Operator, or operation.
Operation.
All of it. Yep. Operation : : So now this is where we're telling ASCII Doctor it's one of its methods to go grab that snippet and plug it in for us. And because we're using operation, we're saying give us all the options that you provided. It's going to give us a HTTP PI, a curl, regular HTTP request and response.
Is it snippets equals of in a comma delimited at list?
Nope,
right?
You don't even have to do that. If you just do operation : all, open close bracket, I think that's all that we need.
Okay, so this will give us everything that we need in here.
Yes.
In that case, then we can move on. So we have an ASCII Doctor here. We said, hey, we could get all the known planets with the following call, operation all. That's going to include what you said, which is all of the little snippets that a user will want to see. Okay.
So let me pause for a second. We have a couple of good questions. So Fuel Stable asks, why do you need to pass in string.class? So in our test.
Oh, here.
Yep, we're passing in the string.class. Why do we need to do that? What are we doing there? Go ahead. We're just giving it the type. Yep, right there on line 36.
Are you mocking? You are mocking us? I liked it. I got it. Why do you need to pass string? The reason why we need to pass string is because we're passing in an object containing another object of unknown type, and because Java has like this type erasure, which means that like I can't send in a list of strings and then have something expect a list of strings unless I explicitly say this is going to be always a list of strings. This might be a list of anything, right? So if I type erasure means that sending in a list of T, everything becomes T, an unknown object, okay? And in order to know at the other time, hey, I got to tell you a hint. I have to say, hey, that T is actually a string. So in this case, that thing is a mono, and that mono has a type T, and I want to tell that, hey, type T is a string.
So Fuel Stable, now that I've actually heard his voice, now I hear his voice. Type erasure, I see it. Good. Thank you for that explanation. Johnny says, hey, the recapping helps when we circle back and say, hey, what we're doing. Connor asks, what was the path for snippets attribute?
What was the path for snippets? Well,
So
by default, it goes under your target directory under something called generated snippets.
hopefully that makes sense. So
Hopefully
we're
that
going
makes
to ask our Spring REST docs to generate some snippets and throw those snippets into this generated snippets directory. And then we just looked at ASCII Doctor. ASCII Doctor knows how to pull in those snippets.
Say snippet one more time.
Snippets,
I double dare you.
Snippets. Yeah, but don't do it 5 times into a mirror in the dark.
Don't do that now. Okay, so all right, so let's go back to our test. What do? We created the ASCII doctor that will contain the the documentation that we want. This is a demo. So it just says, hey, here are all the planets, and here's the operation. Here's the thing that will actually pull in all of those snippets, and we'll show you the snippets after we're done coding this one particular piece. Let's go back up to our get method, right? And let's say so for WebFlux. For REST template or mock MVC, you have and then do. For WebFlux, you can consume. So you can return a consumer. So you can say like consume with. And in this case, we want to let's see, web test client REST documentation. There it is. Okay, so we want to engage the web test client REST documentation snippet generator. So essentially what this thing does here, it documents RESTful APIs that are bound to the client of web test client. So this is a version of the generator that will interact with this whole thing, with this whole guy here. So it'll know the operations done and it'll document them.
So let me clarify, or let me play something back. We have a test that's working. We have a normal Spring WebMVC test that you might typically see. The line that you just added is the one step that we take from going from a regular Spring WebMVC test to using REST docs. This is the line that says, "Hey, REST docs, we'd like you to generate these snippets." This is the difference, right?
Yes.
So
exactly.
The difference from going from your regular tested stuff that everybody is perfectly comfortable with, and we've been doing it for years, and we always test our code, unlike Fuel Snable, to go from your well-tested MVC slices to something that actually generates your documentation. This is the step.
This is good. So that's the step that'll produce the thing that we want. So you can literally just copy and paste it. It's not that simple. There are other variables that you can add to that, so you can add like root paths and things like that.
Yep.
But to just get the documentation itself, to get the known knowns, the everything that we know about this, which is in code, to get that out, we can just simply call this method here, and that'll get everything that we need to know documented out. So running this test will do the right thing. It'll execute the test. Oh, hi. What happened here? REST docs configure. Could you forget to register web? Oh, duh. We forgot something important.
Yeah, we had to say like extend with.
Okay, so what we want to do is we want to actually tell our unit tests. We want to tell them, hey, there is going to be a REST documentation context involved, and that context is going to be the thing that helps us assemble these snippets and then dump them into a file.
Can I try this? Can I try this part? I think it's going to be exactly like what we did last time. Oh, yeah, let's do that. You might not want to put that on the screen.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No.
You throw that into Slack, and then I'll grab it. I mean, everybody that's here is all friends and family, but on the replay, right? So I will grab that, and I think what I'm going to be able to do as soon as I see that link.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to so what I'll do here is I'll chat you on the sideband here.
All right.
Now, let me just make sure that
Connor said, "You're going to share that link." I was going to drop in. He was like, he was ready. He's got the plugin installed.
Oh, hey, like 40 people into my code, like my computer.
Yeah, hey, that's amazing.
Okay. I just don't want this to. I stopped sharing my window because I didn't want any
Yeah,
I
good
don't want
idea.
Slack to just open up on the window that I have because it sometimes
Yeah,
it doesn't
better
do the
safe than
right thing
sorry.
sometimes.
So let me grab
It's
this.
Slack, by the way.
Let
Okay.
me grab this. I will copy that,
That's funny though.
and I will try to jump in here.
You have all these people like vying for
You
from the
know,
left window.
and that's something that maybe we do on a later show is, we have folks that are already Spring Developer advocates like Connor. We just have them jump in and code with us.
That would have been
Because
fun.
I
Actually,
enjoy,
that sounds like a hackathon. That like that it sounds like a hackathon almost.
yes.
Like a little like a wheel, and it just goes around and says, okay, add code, add code, add code, add code.
I am looking for the link here. Please continue to hold.
What happened?
I've got the link, but it gave me like a curl bash.
Oh, it gave you one of those. Yeah, it downloads. Yeah. So right from
Yeah,
okay.
I think I just have to grab this
yeah,
URL.
just go with it. Yeah, go with it. It works.
Wait,
it
what?
works.
It doesn't have the yeah, I'll run it. Here we go.
Yeah, it'll take a second. It usually takes a minute. It has to unpack, and then it has
I already
to start
had all
up.
that. I already had the
I know.
stuff.
It's that one command.
That's weird.
There's
We'll figure it out.
a shortcut, but they didn't make it like intuitive to the point where you can just drop it into your IDE and run it. You have to like do one extra step.
Got it. JetBrains like sure,
Yeah.
JetBrains, you can do that.
Of course, Mr. Brains.
Right, and this is a natural. Like everybody does this. Everybody goes through this, right?
You're going to be my Google. You're going to be my GitHub Copilot, my GitHub brush.
Awesome. All right, so now I'm connected.
You got it.
Look at my code. Look at my code. Okay. I'm the pilot now. Yes, Copilot, pilot. Haha. All right. So what I think, I'm going to jump in, and now I'm going to drive on yours. What I think I need to do, what we just discussed, is like, hey, like I don't have that REST documentation context, so I'm going to jump into REST docs. I think this is what I need, and I'm looking at our previous example. I want to extend. I want to say, hey, here is some more details that I want you to know about. Extend with. Can I do that?
Yep. Yeah, you gotta just insert it.
Like there we go.
Yeah.
And then I want to do REST documentation extension and Spring extension. I think that's all I need. Is that it? Can we run it again?
I usually like to add, because I'm not going to configure the context myself here in another block of code. Mm-hmm. I usually add auto-configure REST docs to do that for me. Just because it's a little bit easier than me like saying here, plug this into your web test client. I'm sorry, make that use the annotation.
Oh, just the annotation. Got it.
Yep.
You know what though? I don't know if I need that. And can I do this? Do I need both of these, or can I just do this?
Yeah, if you get rid of one, it won't. Like, try getting rid of it and then running it and see what happens.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yep.
See, so much easier. That's why I'm learning. So
well, not yet. Go to Target and see that it's in Target.
Let's see. Finish generated snippets. Look at that. I got snippets for all.
You got snippets. Okay, so you don't need extends with.
So look, we learned something, or I learned something, right? I just learned a shortcut because what I was doing was I was adding that extend with, and I was adding things that I didn't need to add.
I too was doing both. I was adding extend with, and also I was adding auto-configure REST docs. Now, in auto-configure REST docs, what is this going to do? This is a target document inherited imported REST documentation provider. So this provides the context already. The extension, let's see. So getting to Jupyter to manage it automatically. What is this guy going to do? It's going to create a context. Okay, give me a context. Before test, do something with the context. Get required test method, get name. Okay, all right. So it's just going to add hooks apparently. It's going to tell you where in the cycle you are. It's going to allow us to do something like manually.
But we get it. We got it.
So what I understand is we can do it manually. Like there's two versions of doing it, which is like a before you set it up, and then you have to do extends, or you can do auto-configure REST docs, and you don't have to do anything.
All right. So Nishant just showed up, and he says, "What are we creating?" That's a great question. So, for those of you that just joined, Nishant, welcome. This is code, and what we're doing this week is we are building something. We're just building an API.
Oh,
then
yes.
we're going to we're doing TDD. We're writing our tests first. Then we're building an API. Then we're having Spring REST docs along with ASCII Doctor create our documentation from our running tests, from our successful tests. And then we're going to add on Spring Cloud Contract, and we're going to talk about contract-driven development.
Okay, so in order to generate the whole ADOC, I got to Maven, produce the artifact, right?
But your plugin, because we added Spring REST docs, your plugin should be configured.
Yeah. Oh, so you're saying that the REST docs should be there, but where's the generated doc?
So we did not do that. But what we should do is if you go up, you scroll up and you look at your ASCII doc, planets.doc, ADOC, if you have the plugin, the ASCII Doctor plugin, look at that. You'll see that this is what our output is going to look like.
Yeah. So, okay, so what happened there is, I guess, it just went and found our generated snippets, huh?
It did. It knows. So by default, like I said, it knows where to look. So ASCII Doctor is configured with those defaults. The only reason we added that generated snippets was we were just being explicit. So you knew exactly where to look. You knew exactly where things were configured. So yeah, we get that out of the box. Okay. So now the question is like, hey, where does that document get generated? Where is our generated docs?
So where's our doc? That's the good question is,
we should.
Stage, so our generated doc won't, like our generated doc, the thing that actually turns it into a book, hasn't gotten executed.
Well, because you didn't do anything other than run your test. Your test generated the snippet. We need to do a Maven clean. We need to run the other phase, which is, I think, is generate docs.
Yeah. So
generate docs. So if you do a Maven clean package, you'll get your docs.
Exactly. So so I want to do a Maven clean package, but because I have contract verifier in here, and if you're doing this with contract verifier, it won't work.
Let's comment that out. Let's comment that out for now.
So that's fine. What we're going to do is we're going to disable contract verifier. And the reason why we are going to disable contract verifier is we're going to contract verifier is going to, with REST docs, create the stubs and the contracts at the same time.
Contract verifier. Say that one more time. Contract verifier is going to create the stubs and the test docs? The REST docs?
The REST docs. Well, REST docs is kind of driving the snippet creation. Spring Cloud Contract has a snippet generator that will generate from your tests a contract of that test, and it'll generate a stub from that test. So that stub will be exactly the same as this. Your stubs will behave in the same way that you wrote your tests, minus the documentation portion.
Okay.
So what we want to do is, because of this, normally you would create contracts on your own. Okay. You would normally code a contract. In this case, we're not coding a contract. We're going to disable. We are going to disable it by doing skip. So what we want to do is to disable the verifier.
Okay.
That is the verifier plugin from looking for contracts and then generating the stubs out of those contracts and verifying them and doing all the other stuff. We're going to disable that, and we're going to say, hey, Spring Cloud Contract verifier.skip. And that's all. So now we can proceed with our build. So let's go ahead and Maven package it up. Okay. And let's see, target should have a generated docs. Yes. Okay. So, okay. Yes. And in that case, that's just it's the same thing that we saw earlier. It's
Yep.
just, you know, their CSS is different than IntelliJ's own CSS, right?
Yeah.
Is that how that works? Yeah. Okay, so that's the Planets API REST doc documentation. Now, for the most part, that's as far as it takes you. Okay, it doesn't take you any further than generating a generated docs directory and putting the HTML file in there.
Yep, and you can do with that what you will.
Yeah.
Right. In your pipeline, your path to production, you might say, hey, after I've done my Maven clean package and I've verified all of my tests are working, things are passing, I should have this generated docs folder. I want to grab that docs and maybe I update some wiki or some central location that has the documentation for everything. Or what we did last time was we said, hey, take that documentation, let's throw it back in to our actual artifact. Let's put it back into the artifact in some static HTML directory so that when I deliver this artifact to production, the docs match the code that it was tested against.
Oh, that sounds like
So
a good idea.
I never get out of sync.
Okay.
That's what I like. That's why I lean into this Spring REST docs. And going back to our earlier question, like different. What about Open API spec and Swagger? Like this is the plus part of that. I want to deliver the spec. I want to deliver all the stuff, but I want to make sure that it matches exactly what's happening. And if I know I've got these docs, I know there's tests that generate these docs, it makes me feel better.
Okay, so you're saying that we want to package this with our jar file?
We want to package this. Yeah, we want to throw it back into our jar file.
Okay. In order to do that, because I don't think it's going to happen for us. Let me check the target.
I can do it. Like I can drive on this part.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we have our example that we've done before, and this is just kind of my default. So I've got an example. So I'm going to open up the pom.xml, and I'm going to go down towards the bottom. After the ASCII Doctor plugin, after the Spring Boot Maven plugin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add. Yep, I'm here. I'm going to add another plugin, and this plugin, the group ID is. No, I want the artifact ID. I don't need to type this out. I'm going to just go and copy and paste it.
I typically it's XML, man.
Yeah, it's XML. Check this out.
That's what I tend to tell people is like, hey, look,
look, I did it.
Yeah.
Now I'll talk about it. I grabbed the Maven Resources plugin. Yeah. What's that?
Do you like Daylight?
I like Daylight.
Me too. I love Daylight.
Yeah. Copy resources. So we've built our stuff. Now we're going to copy some of these resources. We're going to copy stuff.
Okay.
During this phase, while we prepare our package. So the generate docs is before this phase in Maven. And what we're going to do is we're going to copy some resources from, or this is where it's going to go to, from our build directory generated docs, which we just looked at. I want to throw it into our /static. I could have put /static or /public_HTML. Both of those are kind of default out of the box options. So that's all I need to do. So now if I do Maven clean package is going to run all my Maven phases. And during that prepare package, it's going to say, oh, let me go and grab those generated docs and throw them back into my static directory.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going to make one more change because I want it to be visible. I am going to go up to our main ASCII doc. We've only got the planets a doc. I'm going to rename planets a doc to index. I'm just going to rename it to index.
Oh, okay.
Refactor. I just want to rename. Oh, I can't do it. Can you rename that planets a doc to index.adoc?
Yep. Okay.
There we go. So now instead of a planets.html, we'll get an index.html and it'll be at the root. So the root of our package, the root of our server, that index.html will get discovered. And then root. I am root.
Love it.
So now I think we're ready.
All right. So we're gonna package it. We got to get out of here, but in 10 or 20 or whatever. But so we're gonna package it, and let's just assume that I did clean package, right? And then I examined the package, and then you saw that. Oh, my bad. Do that again. So we're gonna make a couple of changes here, okay? And I'm not saying that these changes are drastic changes, but we're at the end of the ASCII Doctor generation portion of this, right?
Mhm.
Where we finally compile the generated document and we turn it into a jar file and it gets wrapped up into an artifact, right? Jar XBF, producer, snapshot jar. Oh, that looked good. Anyway, it's just a
Open
target.
that up because we can't see it. Our mugs are
Oh,
covering that
there
up.
you are.
There you go.
So we have our inf class static. Let me just grab static.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so there it is. So it's
Tap that energy a couple of
static
times.
dash index.html.
Perfect.
So it's in our jar file now. So it's under Buddha, classes static index.html. This is a fat jar. This contains everything. You can just run this and it'll be fine. Index.html takes up no more space than a couple of kilobytes. But if somebody ever needs to see it, they can just go in and run it. On the other hand, if we ran a web server, how would we say? Let's not worry about the web server part. I didn't say anything about a web server. This whole application is a web server. So in that case, computer.
What happened?
I don't know. I think my computer decided to update. Okay, yeah, I'm running Synergy, and my second desktop is my mouse, keyboard, and everything else. So I think Windows decided, oh yeah, I'm gonna update right now. I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not gonna update. I just hit the button. Okay. Alrighty. So we did REST docs. We distributed REST docs, right?
Yep.
That's good. But there's one more, and that's not all. I think that's how he
Oh
says
wait,
it.
there's more?
Oh wait, there's more. Yeah. The oh wait, there's more part has to come in, and what we want to do is we want WireMock. Do you know what WireMock is? Are you familiar with WireMock?
Maybe, but I'm embarrassed to say because I'm afraid I'll be wrong.
Fine. I've come in contact with WireMock years ago and recently now, and I forgot. I had to remind myself. Oh yeah, WireMock could do a lot of stuff. WireMock is pretty cool. It allows you to basically write a script, and that script will be your server. So you can write a script for how an HTTP response looks and how an HTTP request looks, and WireMock will just do that. And it'll sit as a server and it'll just follow your orders. That's what contracts are basically. They're basically WireMock servers, contract stubs. They're basically servers that run just that little bit of application just to verify the thing that you wanted, and that's it. Nothing more. So WireMock is just a very lightweight server that takes instructions almost on the fly, and it mocks it and it puts it over TCP/IP, and you get the ability to stand up a test server really quickly and basically validate things. All right. So what we did was we added the WireMock dependency through Spring Cloud Contract, because Spring Cloud Contract uses WireMock to do certain things. We're going to allow it to write WireMock contracts as well. Okay.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take this consume with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to say one more. Let's add another consume with. Oopsie. And this usually happens. What ends up happening is IntelliJ doesn't know that I've included WireMock in it. What is the artifact that I am seeing there?
So yeah, I see it too.
I see an artifact. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that artifact is permanent, isn't it?
Oh no, it's gone.
Okay. No, it's not. Okay. So what happens is, for some reason, my IntelliJ never actually picks up the fact that I put WireMock in here.
Yeah, we just got to go hit that Maven button and rebuild our index.
So what do you do to make that work?
Usually in my palm, I scroll up to the top and there's going to be a little Maven button over on the right side, but it's not there. So the other thing I can do is on the right side, I have that Maven tab. I hit that refresh circle so it rebuilds the index.
Where do you see that? Oh, there we are. Reload. Alrighty. Okay, let's see if that worked. I hope that worked, because before I always had to just quit IntelliJ in order for it to find Spring Cloud Contract REST docs. And I was always wondering to myself, it's right there, guys. It didn't go anywhere. I'm just gonna exit out because that's where I'm at right now.
I want to address a couple of things here. DaShaun says, "Hey, I generate Jacoco code coverage HTML file using Maven test goal and Go CD pipeline, picks it up from target folder, custom location where I asked Maven to copy the generated docs. Absolutely. We have a not fan. Mill Freedom says, wow, such a waste of time to watch guys who have no idea how HTTP body is represented and coded. Thanks. Sorry. And DaShaun says, hey, remove all compilation errors and Maven install on right side plus clean. Yes. Yes.
I don't know either. So what we're going to do is we're going to create the DSL contract for this, and what will happen is I have to call. Oh, this comes as a. I'm sorry. This comes as a argument. This is going to be a snippet. So web test client rest documentation.document. The API call for document says, hey, give me the identifier, and then give me more snippets. Okay. So we need a class, we need an object or something that will dump out snippets. In order to get the snippets, we have Spring Cloud contracts REST docs that will dump out snippets. So this here class will return a snippet that does all of the it takes the operations, it basically introspects the operation given by my client call, my web MVC, or my mock, what do you call this? My web test client, and it'll, create cloud contract DSLs for it. So we can do that twice. We can do it for this guy, and then we can do it for this guy. Okay. So if I run this, I'll get what I'm looking for, which is just an extra directory in each one of the snippet directories, right? Remember, we have generated snippets. So what we're going to see here is we're going to see contracts. And so this is the contract. This is a contract in Groovy. And this Groovy contract will essentially get read in by a stub runner. A stub runner will then use something like WireMock or its stub runner service to stand up a lightweight HTTP server that represents exactly what this thing here says in contract. And it will let me test it. The stub, on the other hand, that's the stub. I'm sorry. This is the contract. This is the thing that comes first. I said that wrong. This is the thing that comes first. This is the thing that you write in order for you to get a stub, okay? But now that we can just write tests, the tests can drive both contracts and stubs. So as long as your tests are correct, your contracts are going to be correct. If you deploy your contract somewhere and other people see it, then they're going to expect that this is exactly how it works. And if your test is exactly how this works, then everybody's good. As far as your stubs go, these are your stubs that get run with the Spring Cloud Contract Stub Runner, and these are the same thing. It's almost as a contract, only at this point it's basically like a WireMock JSON file that says here's your request and here's your response, and this is the thing that actually gets injected into like a WireMock server so that it could run and take requests and responses in this way. Now, what I want to do at this point is say, look at what we have here. If you include the stubs if you include the DSL contracts, what you're going to get is a little bit more. You're going to get a DSL contract in here, and you're going to get you're just going to get an extra DSL contract. If that makes any sense to most people, that's fine. But I believe you can do something like snippets equals, and
Yes.
at this point you can just say which snippets do I want, right? So I want my curl request, I want my HTTP request, and my HTTP response, and then I want my request body and response body. In any order. Like, honestly, I would say like put the request and response with the bodies. Was that correct?
While you're doing that, I'll answer a couple of questions. Farce, F-A-R-C-E, is this about Spring Cloud? Oh man, I missed this. I'm actually learning about it. Do you have a repo so that I can learn further, please? Yes, for you, we will make sure that we post our repo after the show. We'll kind of show what we've worked on, that we've all worked on together. And yeah, you can absolutely learn more. This is hopefully a weekly show that we'll be doing going forward called Code. This is episode 67. And yeah, bring your questions. It's interactive. We don't have all the answers, but we know people that do. And yeah, join us. So it'll be saved. It'll be on the YouTubes and the Twitches and all the places for you to come back and watch from the beginning. So thanks for joining, Johnny. We appreciate your feedback. We're here for you. Nishan says, "Wow, hey, we're doing cool stuff," and asks the question, "Where does this Wiremark server get injected?" As in, the server will not be part of my application code, right?
No.
What will be the URL of this Wiremark server? This is just in the test phase, right? This is just while we're doing our tests and doing that document generation phase from Maven.
So yeah, this Wiremark will only be so the Spring Cloud contract will utilize this Wiremark in order to generate stubs, and those stubs are basically Wiremark code for standing up a server and doing something. In this case, this Wiremark stub is here, right? Hi. Oh, I think there's. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, am I there? All right, so yeah, this is the Wiremark stub. This will get injected into something called the stub runner. But Wiremark doesn't go along for the ride with your server. No, it only goes along for the ride in the test phase, and that's it. It generates this code here. And this is the stub that we want to generate to actually test later on. So let's move on real quickly, right? While I'm here, I'm going to say, okay, I have everything that I need. I have all of my resources. I have all of the things that are generated. I've got my contracts. I've got my stubs. Now I need them to get out to the world. I need the real world to see it. So what are you going to do? The first thing you want to do is, let's see. Okay,
I want to generate the stub. I want to generate something, that has these stubs in it that I can give out to the world, because we're not done. We're not done with our API,
right.
But maybe we've agreed on what this contract is going to be. We're going to have our CRUD endpoints, our list endpoints, etc. And we want to say, hey, this is what we've agreed to. This is how we're going to implement it, because we haven't done the persistence. But we're far enough along where we can say, this is what our contract looks like. So you can go front end. You can go keep working. We're going to give you this stub that you can go and run tests against while we finish implementing the back end, the persistence tier.
Yeah, this is something that so this becomes a thing in which only tests are basically driving your documentation. So tests are driving everything here. Production doesn't really drive much. If you change production in a way that test breaks, then your contracts break, everything breaks, right?
Yep.
So the idea here is TDD up front. It's test-driven development. It's I want to write my tests first. My tests are basically are brokering the actual conformity of your production code, and everybody else who sees your contracts are going to basically understand how your tests will work too, because your tests again are driving the creation of your contracts and your stubs and your documentation. So production must follow that specific test, obviously. Okay.
So
here's what we're going to do.
DaShaun says, understood. I'm going to try this tomorrow morning.
Okay. So here's awesome. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to use the Maven assembly plugin. I hate saying this. No. I like saying this, but I hate saying this at the same time. We're going to use the Maven assembly plugin. The Maven assembly plugin is going to create another jar file. And that jar file is going to contain this Spring Cloud contract stubs. Okay. It's going to create another jar file that contains just the stubs and some code, or maybe the source code, or whatever you want, really. But in this case, we're going to plug it in here. We're going to add another plugin. So let's just go ahead and add the assembly plugin.
I got a question.
Show you what that looks like.
I got a question.
Yes.
Could we? I'm just throwing it out here. Could we, instead of what I've typically done in the past, and I'm just again thinking out loud, what I've done in the past is I've made that additional jar file out of the same repository, and basically in my pipeline I was creating two artifacts. I was creating an artifact for my server, my API, and I was also creating an artifact that delivered the stubs. But hear me out. Could I generate the jar file and then put the jar file inside of my static directory, so that if somebody went to the documentation, oh, here's a stub runner, grab it, grab the stub runner that we're compatible with. What would that feel like?
That would feel.
I know where the problem is, because the problem is we're not in production yet. We're not production yet, right? So how would I get that out there?
Right. Yeah, this is yeah, stubs are okay, yeah, exactly. So what your question was, can I take a production jar file and then run against those stubs? And the answer is no. And this is why, because your stubs are supposed to gate production, right? So you're not supposed to do anything until everybody agrees that the stubs work. So therefore, you would never see a production jar file until those stubs have been validated that they are indeed the correct way of running, right? Okay, so what we're going to do is create the stubs jar file here using Maven assembly. And all it's going to do is we're going to configure Maven assembly this way. So Maven assembly takes a stubs XML file for its configuration, and that lets me tell it what I want to put into the jar file, okay? So the next thing I want to do here is I want to create source main, or actually I think it's source assembly.
Source assembly.
And then I'm going to create a file called stubs.xml. I almost said stubs.jar. And I have XML already in my paste buffer, so I'll go ahead and paste that XML in here. Let me just make sure.
Because we like daylight.
And this is what we're looking at. We're looking at somebody who wants to include a bunch of stuff into that jar file, whether it be the source code directory, whether it be the classes files, and also the stubs themselves, so that all the stubs are actually included. And for good measure, you can include contracts. Now, this comes directly from one of the examples out of Spring Cloud Contract, and so it includes everything. It's all inclusive. Not everybody wants to include classes with their stubs, so that's not necessary. Not everybody wants to include Java files with their stubs, so that's not necessary either. But just because we want to create the idea that you can include everything in here, this will be it. So with the stubs file, I can go ahead and say, all right, so now that I have my stubs, now that I generated contracts, I can go ahead and say Maven clean install. And what that's going to allow me to do, what that's going to allow me to do is go into another project and then test those stubs. And that's even simpler because it's just going to be a stub runner, and that's it, nothing more.
Awesome. And Fars says, yes, this WireMock server is a new thing to me, but is this proper industry standard to include such a thing in cloud projects? I think this is just for testing. Yes, this is just for testing. This is just something that gets initiated in our testing phase while we're validating our code and generating our documentation, generating our stubs. That's the only place where that WireMock server exists.
Now, let's see. Let me show you guys what happens here. So Cloud Contract did its thing, and so did RestDocs. It did its thing. We have two jar files. So if you notice, we installed the actual producer, the production jar file, and we produced the stubs jar file as well. So the stubs jar file is in here, and we want to test it. So I want to know what the heck happens if I wrote a client that did this, right? So that's simple. It's even easier. We can go ahead and create something called a consumer. We actually don't need RestDocs here. We don't need contract verifier because we're on the other side now. We do want the reactive web because we want the web client itself. So we're going to just still include webflux, but we're not going to, we're going to go into the guise of, I just want one component, okay? But what we want as well is the contract stub runner. Stub runner allows us to pick up that jar file, that extra jar file, and then run code against it. So this is the consumer. Okay, stubs consumer. And then go into the previous directory and zip it. It creates a new window. There we are. Okay. So
now we're on the client side.
Yes. So now we're on the client side. And so what we got to do here is simple. Very, very easy is 1, 2, 3. We got to open up a jar file. No, I'm just kidding. We don't have to do all that. I like to say, like, back in the day when I was just a coder working on like enterprise software, we used to break open jar files and add things and change things to them. These days we don't do that anymore. So thank God. Okay, so what do I want to create here? I want to create an application that is consumer stubs. Call it consumer stubs. Let's see, at Spring Boot. Is this Kotlin?
It could be.
Cool. I created a Kotlin. I created a Kotlin one. I don't want to confuse you guys.
I know. Hey, that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
we're
Okay.
Kotlin friendly. Like,
Okay.
it's a client. It's some other team that's going to consume. Yeah, this is great. Keep going.
Boot test.none. Okay, web environment none. So we're going to say, hey, I don't have a web environment. We're telling it actually not to. Yeah. Okay. Oh, come on. Yes, 1.8. Beautiful. Okay. I hope you're happy. Okay. Okay. So we're telling it not to start. We are telling it not to start a just to get out of here, Kotlin. Don't do this to me, Kotlin. Okay. So we're telling it not to start a web server because a web server is going to get started, and it's going to get started through this guy here, auto configure stub runner. And then stub runner is going to do a couple of things. First of all, we have to tell it, what stub are you talking about? What stub are we giving it, right? And in order to do that, we have to know about the Spring Cloud Contracts, I guess, locator format. And the locator format means I give it an artifact. So this is common example .producer, I believe, is the group name. And then the actual artifact name is producer. And then the version is plus. And then the port that we're going to execute those stubs on is 8080. So what we're at the end of this is the Spring Cloud Contract is going to create a, it's going to start it up and it's going to listen on that port, okay? And then what we want to say is stubs mode. Stubs mode is the way of standing up the server. That is locating it. Where is it actually at? Is it local? Is it in a GitHub somewhere? Is it
the cloud?
Is it an Artifactory, or where is it? Like, how do I get it? So what we say is stub runner properties dot stubs mode dot local, right? So now we're telling it, hey, it's just going to come out of our .m2 directory, right? That's it. So nothing too hard over there. The next thing we want to do is we want to say we want to write a test, and that test should do something like this: void should get planets, because that's going to test our. This is a. How about I love this. Fun.
Kotlin, baby.
Should get all planets. Oh, I missed Kotlin.
Does that feel good?
Oh,
man, I can see the smile on your face.
Yeah. Okay, so what do I want to do? I want a web client, right?
Yes.
Okay. Web client. Oops. Val web client. How do you build a web client? Can I just auto configure one?
Sure.
Auto wire one? Auto wired web client, or do I want a mock web client?
We're doing Kotlin, so I don't know off the top of my head how we're going to do this any different.
Oh, in Kotlin, in order to get a variable, man, it's been a minute since is lazy, or is it val? It's actually var web client. Hold on, web client. Lazy. Late. Okay, yeah, it's late in it. Okay. So late in it var allows you to do that in Kotlin because essentially everything is public final, or everything is final unless you make it a late in it var in which it's not initialized at first, and then Spring now has a chance to wire it in using late in it. Otherwise it's just going to complain, and you're not gonna like the way it complains. So we can say get, and we can say URI, and we can say http://localhost 8080/API/planet/ and then we can say exchange to mono, or I think it's a flux because it's a list of things.
It's a list.
So yeah. So what I want to know is, am I going to get an exchange or?
But we returned a list. We didn't return a flux.
We didn't return a mono of list, we didn't return a flux of list, or a flux of objects. We just returned a list, and it should just come out as a mono.
Yes.
In the background,
Flux
will do the right thing and just say, hey, this is actually going to be a mono of a bunch of stuff. And so that's it. So we'll just say, okay, exchange to mono, and so this is a client response. So it's res body to mono, or how about body extractor? Create exception headers, YP pictures is body to entity. And that will be planet. And this also means that we need to write a planet. Extract a separate file. Tell me you put it into production. Nope, it didn't. We're going to move that in production. Factor. So what we have here is, I probably can just do like data class planet, and planet's going to be what? It's going to have an ID, a long, and then it's going to have a name, and that's going to be a string, right? I think that's about it. So the data class, it contains 2 items in it, and that should be enough. Okay. Now, client response. So response handler has the following thing. Where is to entity? Can I? No, Java. Really? 1 point at you guys. Oh, you guys. Yes. Okay. Kotlin's. It's oh, it's that other thing. It's project structure. Yeah. So modules. I'm at language level 17, guys. What's going on? SDK. Let's see, Kotlin SDK. What are we looking for? Home path. Okay.
It's okay.
Why?
This
Okay,
happens.
it's just giving me issues about compilation. I haven't used Kotlin in like days or months already.
You know what? Pause. Just go back. Let's just recreate it. We'll create it as a
really quickly
Java project. It'll take us 2
really
seconds.
quickly. It's actually, it was Java. Why was it?
Click to click. Well, maybe it's because you called it .kotlin.
Oh, what? So wait, are you saying that?
Maybe.
So it wasn't a Kotlin project after all. Oh, this was a Java project after all. It's no wonder it's freaking out. Okay. I just did the wrong thing here.
Yeah. So yeah,
okay,
rename our consumer stubs from .kt to
Okay, we'll just call it consumer stub tests. We can just take this stuff out of here.
Yeah. That ought to work.
Okay. Goodbye there. Okay. So we'll just change a couple of things here. This needs to be a curly braces, and that's good, right? Ooh, hi. Tell me this is a .java file. Yes. Okay, I gotta blow this whole thing away. I'm sorry. Let me blow that whole thing away. Because,
go ahead.
I let IntelliJ do some things.
This is how we work, right? This isn't a scripted show. Like we're not. We set the expectation. I hope that this is just how we code. We didn't come in here with a script that, hey, this is going to work perfect, and hey, we practiced this demo. No, we're thinking out loud. We're learning from each other. Hopefully, we're answering some questions along the way. And yeah, sometimes it's just easier to just wipe it, hit refresh, right?
Yep. Okay. All right. So let's do this again, guys. All right. My bad there. So what we're going to do is, I guess, write some more tests and just run with the stub runner. How about that? How about we just do like 1 stub runner test and we're good? Let's just call this one stub tests. How about planet stub tests? Yeah, planet stub, or it could be planet API test. It could be whatever you guys want though. In this case, we're going to say Spring Boot test, web environment equals Spring Boot test web environment none. We don't want that, and we want to say auto configure stub runner IDs. Example. Example rest doc is the name of it. Rest doc producer plus 8080. Okay, so that should do the right thing there. And then we can say Stubs mode equals stub runner properties. Oh, stubs mode local. Thank you, autocomplete. You're so awesome. Okay. The next thing we want to do is create a web. The next thing we want to do is create a call out. Excuse me. We don't want to create a web. We want a call out. So we need a web client. And in order to get the web client, we have to inject a web client. So let's get our web client out and builder. Let's just build a web client. Simple. Client is equal to web client dot builder dot build. How about there we go. That works. Test void should get all planets. There's no arguments here. And the next section, I will figure out if it is possible to let's see. Do I need a step verifier for this? I'm going to need a step verifier. All right.
Wait a minute.
So this is probably like what will happen is I'm going to use web client to talk to the mocked server, and I'm going to validate it like do a test. Like if I wrote an actual client, for instance, my client will be backed by a web client, not a web test client, because that's MVC or Webflux. This is not Webflux. This is WireMock. So I'm going to need to talk to it with a regular HTTP client. The web client itself suffices as a standard HTTP client. So what I can do here is just create the call out, get the data. So I'll create a stream. I'll say like publisher of, I can say actually, how about a mono of, and that doesn't sound right. I don't like the way that's going to work. I don't want to say a mono for a list of something because that gives me the heebie-jeebies. What you would normally do is just say something like, let's just go with the call first. Bit.uri localhost 8080 slash API slash planets slash because I don't have the actual class, right? So body to no planet class, right? So I don't have this yet. Let's create this in production.
Yeah.
Planet. What did we call this before? A record?
We did. We made it a record.
Okay, why don't we just copy and paste the record?
You know what? Last time, yeah, you could do that. Last time, we did it different on our implementations. Like, hey, we did a class on one side, we did a record on the other side. It's okay. It can mix and match because our message converters are going to convert it to JSON anyways or serialize it to whatever we decide. So either way, both are valid options.
Okay. No, I hate this right here. No,
don't
want
hate
to do
it.
this.
Don't hate it. It's okay.
Look at this.
It's okay.
Oh.
We'll upgrade later.
Okay. So what that should be really is a flux. This should be a flux. This shouldn't be a mono.
It will be on the next version.
Yeah.
On 0.0.2, we'll make it a flux, and we'll do all the things reactive.
So let's just make sure that we still, it thinks, hey, yeah, you got a lot of these things. It's going to maybe, I don't know. Let's find out what happens. Well, we're going to get an error anyway here, most likely, just because we're still, I'm futzing, I guess. Is that the correct word? Futz?
Yeah. Let's go with it.
Okay. All right.
You heard it
so
here
we can do
first.
something like step verifier. And you know, reactive programming isn't even necessary for this. We don't even need Webflux to test this. We could have just done this with straight up REST docs. REST template. Yep. And you could just skip the Webflux stuff because testing Webflux is a little bit more involved since you're dealing with the event loop, right? So what we'll do here is we'll create the we'll let it subscribe to planets, which is our extreme up there. And then we'll just expect next. And let's see. Oh, expect next and new planet. 1L, comma Jupiter. Next, new planet. 2L. Well, what was the actual thing I'm returning? That's the thing. I have to look at the contract and find out what it wants. I'm pretty sure the first one was Saturn and then the second one was Jupiter. So let's just say Saturn was first and then Jupiter was second. Let's go back to our contract here. Generate snippets and contracts. So yeah, the first one will be ID1 Saturn, ID2 Jupiter, right? And that's what our stub says too. All it says, yeah, I'm going to return 1 Saturn, 2 Jupiter. Okay. All right, so we did that, right?
I'm going to do a quick time check here. We got about 5 minutes left in the show. If you've got questions, go ahead and get them in the chat. Ask your questions. We'll be happy to get to them. If we don't get to them today, we'll get to them next time. Expect to see us next week at some point. Oh, and my 5 minutes is up. But yeah, please hold. Hi.
Hi. Okay, so that's it. So what do we do there? We use Step Verifier to actually talk to our web server using the web test, the web client. And what did I get? A 404 because I didn't, I said HTTP get localhost 8080, yada, yada, yada. Expected, actual, on error, 404. Fine. Example, rest producer, colon 8080. That should be the thing that we say, /API/planet. URI. That was correct. And what did I do here? Okay, I'm going to do something else. Hold on, you guys. Okay, so in order for this to actually work, let's take a look at another test and a test that uses REST template. I don't feel so comfortable using the web test client, or not web test client, but the whole entire stack of Reactive to do a test. So what we're going to do here is just say, oh, look, I have a test here. I have the same test, the same exact one here. I get to comment out some tests that I don't have or that I don't need. This is a pre-generated one. This is one that I created like maybe a few days ago. It did the same thing, only uses REST template. REST template is actually going to have a little bit more forgiveness in terms of type return. I might not be returning a flux of something. I might actually want a mono of something. I don't want to have to fletch with that at the last moment here. So what I will do instead is I will say I have a stub runner. I will create another stub runner test. And that stub runner test is going to call, this is called producer stubs test. And so what I did here is I'm going to go into another project and use REST template because I feel a little bit weird about using Webflux. It takes a lot to actually use it and kind of get into it all. So what we'll do here is we'll say test void should get all planets. And then what I should do here is actually just go ahead and copy and paste, good old copy and paste. Because you should never go a day without copying some code, even if it's from ChatGPT. I don't care where it's coming from. Nobody's looking. The coast is clear. Don't worry, we've got your back. AI won't take your job today. So a REST template is actually going to be created using a REST template builder. Template equals REST template builder dot yes. Build. Okay, so now we have a REST template, and this guy here throws an exception, so we'll say throws exception. Alrighty, so if you notice, there are a few things that are different from the last time. Let's say that API/planets/ and it's at port 8080 instead of 9090, and it takes a planet.class. let's just go ahead and call it a record. And I have an idea. How about that? I like that idea too. Okay, so doesn't matter. I just added that for no apparent reason. So go back to our producer stubs test. Now we have response entity of string. Oh, we can't have a response entity of string. We have to have a response entity of planet. And now we have assertion, so we can just assert basically basic things based off of what came out of the body. So if res.getBody is going to be a planet, then is not null and has no null fields or properties is probably a good idea. And you can say like has field or property with value, and you can say like the field is going to be it should be a field called ID. But in this case, we're going to have multiple fields, so I'm not going to be able to stipulate, oh, I have a field that is on arity 1. I'm not going to be able to do that here. So let me go ahead and make sure that this either works or doesn't work. I don't have any time left, but you kind of get the gist of what I'm doing here. Is I'm saying, oh, rather than calling the server directly and standing up that server as a test, I'm just standing up the stub. And so that stub here is response type, class planet, content type, application JSON, yada, 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 class planet HTTP. Cannot deserialize this value from an array. Oh, yeah, okay. So
because of time, how about let's do this? Let's jump into it. We had a couple of questions. REST templates certainly deprecated. I don't think it's deprecated yet. I think we've just recommended that you move to the web client, but I'm not sure. I don't see much difference. Yeah, there's not much difference, but definitely move in this direction if you can, even when you can. But there's a lot of people haven't really upgraded, right? We gotta think about the whole community. It's a massive community. When to use Flux versus Mono? I've seen some codes where people are using Mono, just like this, Mono list, like we just did, and that makes sense. When to use Flux versus Mono? Like, how is it different? How is a Mono list different from a Flux list? I think we answer that. Maybe we had a typo here at /planets with 2 N's. Johnny, thank you for sticking with us through the whole show. I appreciate it. But also a mono would return all the information at once, correct? While Flux is continuous data flow. Yes, blocking versus non-blocking, and having that come as a stream, if you will. Mono, only 1 or 0 element, and Flux is 0 or as many elements. Yes. Thank you guys for, right. This is the community answering the questions along the way. In this case, it's the same, but if you're working with other reactive components and you return a mono, you might not retrieve the whole thing because it just finished at that moment. Yes, correct.
Right.
All good stuff.
I eschewed the whole like what Flux thing because I wasn't sure if I can suss out like, okay, are we going to return a Flux or are we going to return a mono of a list? Then I have to throw in a parameterized type reference for that. And I'm thinking, okay, that's probably not going to work correctly, at least the way I see it. In this case, I'm still returning a list. But now what I'm doing is I'm grappling with the idea of telling the API, hey, I want to extract something out of a list. And then I'm getting an error based off of this, which is saying, hey, I know you have a response entity of a list of planets, but I don't have the correct, information needed to know what this is actually going to be, even though I said a list of planets. So I will need to just look at that really quickly. I have a friend that will do this. And
while you're doing that, I'm going to set up our next show.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll do the same thing next week. We'll pick up. Hopefully this was valuable. Let us know. We're on Twitter or LinkedIn or the emails or whatever. We're all available. We're here for you. If there's something that you'd like to see us do on one of these sessions, please let us know. Thank you all for joining. But as far as I think it'd be fun to kind of pick up where we left off on our next show and have some things kind of move forward. Question here, hey, do you have some sort of group or community where we can discuss more? Twitter's a great place. I'm also on Mastodon. We're both on Mastodon. We like Stack Overflow. If you're there, we're there answering questions. Email, if you have email. My email is DaShaun@DaShaun.com. So just like it is down at the bottom, shoot us an email. But we're here for you. There's also a Twitter community for Spring developers over on Twitter. We're here on YouTube, all the places. So Evening midnight, it's here. It's fun to watch you again. Thank you so much for joining. It's good morning. Midnight for some. It's morning for others. We appreciate you, Johnny. Thank you so much for hanging out for the show. Thank you. You're very welcome, Victor. You're very welcome. No sé inglés. I apologize. I'll have to work on that. I can't even think of how to say I'm sorry. Lo siento. There. We'll get that figured out. Thanks, guys. We appreciate you. Hello, everyone in chat. And you don't have to reach out to us. You have each other. Like our chat group has done a great job of answering questions as we go. Feel free to reach out when you can. But we're here for you. Yes, and there's also a Spring developer community on LinkedIn. So yes, we have tons of places. De nada.
Convert that into a
yes. We appreciate you. Okay. Hey, thanks everybody. Is there anything else? Is there anything else you want to wrap up, close it up?
Actually, no.
All right.
So we went through everything here. Right?
Yeah.
We got to the stub runner, but I just said, "Oh yeah, crap."
We got our stub runner, and we delivered our stubs. And maybe next time we just pick up and let's just consume some of those stubs and do that client side. Maybe reactive, but do the client side. We should probably make a reactive API first. We'll update a reactive API and then we'll consume it with a reactive client.
So yeah, the reactive web APIs for the web are very specific. You have to use step verifier, and well, that takes a lot more explaining than just using a good old REST template. That's
we have all the time in the world. We have all the time.
It's just,
we're not the only ones doing this.
Step verifier.
Yeah, we're not the only ones doing this. Let's get through it, and we'll do it live. And we hope to see you all with us. Thank you, everybody.
DaShaun.
Thanks so much.
See you on the flip side.
All right. Bye.